Ukraine just made Russia pay attention to the war from its own capital. In just one night, waves of Ukrainian long-range drones slipped past radar and missile defenses, forcing Moscow to pay close attention as explosions rang out and smoke rose on the horizon. Airports halted operations. Sirens interrupted the city's normal sounds. The Kremlin, which claims to control its airspace completely, suddenly felt vulnerable. This isn't just another news story. It marks a new phase. There's now pressure on Russia's rear and fear at its core, reminding everyone that distance cannot protect you when your opponent learns to bypass your defenses. The events unfolded overnight from October 26th into the early hours of October 27th. Russian authorities reported intercepting over 100 drones across western Russia and claimed that many were headed directly for Moscow. The mayor of Moscow warned residents to stay indoors and watch for debris as air defenses targeted incoming drones from various angles. Two major airports in the city temporarily stopped operations, a common precaution when air defense situations become complicated. Russian ministries often report inflated shoot-down numbers after large attacks. Some figures are believable, but many are staged for media. Even taking their claims at face value tells a story. The air defense system was busy enough to trigger citywide alerts, reroute or suspend flights, and fill the sky with smoke. Multiple independent videos showed smoke plumes near the Moscow region, with eyewitness photos from Kommunarka capturing the aftermath. An oil depot in the surrounding area also caught fire. Officials labeled it an empty tanker fire that was quickly put out. Perhaps. Or maybe it's just the usual downplay following bad nights for Russian air defense. The attack was not limited to the capital. People in Bryansk, Kaluga, Tula, and other regions heard loud explosions and saw flashes. In occupied Luhansk, 2 oil depots were hit, damaging buildings and tankers while staff evacuated. In Kursk, a fire broke out near a substation following a drone strike. Bryansk officials said a minibus was struck by a kamikaze drone, killing the driver and injuring passengers. This claim contrasts with Ukraine's usual focus on military or infrastructure targets and deserves careful consideration. Earlier that same day, Russian media and Ukrainian officials reported attacks on airfields, including those linked with long-range bombers, Tu-160s, Tu-95MS, and Tu-22 minutes and 3 seconds. These bombers carry out many of Russia's deep strikes on Ukraine. Explosions were reported at the Shaikovka Air Base in Kaluga and at Kaluga Airport. The extent of the aircraft damage is unclear, but this strategy is not new. Ukraine has spent months probing Russia's bomber bases, fuel chains, and storage sites, a campaign that gained attention after the June 1st spiderweb strikes on multiple airfields. If you track the night in Moscow on a map, it displayed what it was, an effort to overwhelm Russian defenses, forcing them to manage multiple detection and engagement tasks while attempting to keep civil aviation and city life safe. In that chaotic situation, mistakes occur. Russia's history with friendly fire incidents supports this. A bomb mistakenly dropped in Belgorod in 2023 created an accidental crater in a city block, and just days ago, a video showed what looked like a Panzer missile returning to hit a residential area after a miss. Complex systems can fail in unpredictable ways, especially under stress, fatigue, and cluttered radar conditions. For most people in Moscow, the war began as a distant feed of maps, speeches, and casualty counts from faraway places. Drones change that. They bring the war closer with their high-pitched buzz, drawing people to their windows and their phones. Even successful interceptions lead to late-night alerts, airport closures, and columns of smoke, creating a constant pressure that builds over time. It's not about shock and awe, it's about ongoing anxiety. And that feeling of dread is significant politically. The radar landscape is cluttered with towers and terrain that can block detection. Low-flying, small drones make tracking difficult. Each engagement risks collateral damage. Meanwhile, attackers choose how many routes to open, how to spread them out, and how to deceive interceptors with decoys. If even a few drones get through, or if none do but airports need to shut down and defenses are fully mobilized, the costs rise. Air defense becomes a nightly burden. When fires erupt at depots or substations, whether from direct hits or falling debris, they force Russia to focus resources on protecting the rear instead of adapting on the front lines. Fixing pipelines and replacing transformers uses manpower and funds that could improve counter-drone tools, glide bombs, or electronic warfare devices. The war now affects not only the battlefield but the supply chain as well. As Russian forces advanced around Vovchansk, helped by lower river levels after a hot summer, Ukrainian operators targeted the Belgorod dam complex across the border. This caused water levels to surge, flooding low-lying areas, disrupting trenches, and threatening units that depended on dried riverbeds for logistics. Ukrainian commanders reported a drop in the reservoir of about a meter, enough to disrupt planned operations and turn once safe routes into hazards. Ukraine's drone efforts thrive on quick design cycles, distributed manufacturing, and feedback from the battlefield. By late 2024 to early 2025, credible estimates suggest monthly production of first-person view drones could reach six figures, with long-range drones increasingly used for deep strikes. Each successful mission provides valuable data on effective altitudes, quieter routes, and wave sizes that saturated specific areas. Each new operation incorporates these lessons. Russia's air defense strategy evolved to target fast jets and cruise missiles at medium to high altitudes. Drones, especially small, slow-moving ones flying low, do not follow that plan. They use ground clutter to avoid detection, disrupt expectations, and leverage affordable autonomy to change routes. Even a perfect interception rate cannot erase the strategic impact if a city's routine is consistently interrupted and crucial sites have to spread their defenses thin. A long-range, improvised drone costs just a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars. In contrast, interceptors that pursue them, like Panzer missiles, S-300 or S-400 systems, or even costly sorties, are significantly more expensive, not to mention the civil disruptions they cause. Ukraine doesn't need every drone to succeed. It just needs the defender to expend resources, experience stress, and occasionally falter. Moscow surrounded its capital with radars and defense systems for a reason, both safety and symbolism. But those defenses become ineffective if attackers find ways around them. The Kremlin can add more radars, weapons, and patrols, but attackers can always find new angles. The safest city in Russia must now navigate probabilistic protection, not guaranteed safety. Each night of smoke over Moscow chips away at the idea that the war is far away, under control, and only slightly affects everyday life. That narrative was already struggling due to mobilization cycles, empty shelves in some tech areas, and wage worries as the defense sector consumes labor. Nights filled with drone activity accelerate that erosion. While polling in Russia is imperfect and risky politically, trends show growing fatigue. People do not need exact data to feel unsafe. They only need one anxious night listening for sirens while their kids are awake after midnight. Air defense crews, dispatchers, firefighters, and airport controllers are all humans working limited shifts. Maintaining a high tempo can lead to mistakes. As Russia sends more forces to protect the capital, vulnerabilities appear elsewhere. That's when you see unusual videos, a misguided interceptor, an explosion where one shouldn't have occurred, or unexpected scheduled maintenance at a facility that is known to be critical. Kyiv has discovered a way to increase costs for Moscow while staying within the limits of unmanned, non-nuclear precision strikes. It's a message to Russian leaders. Your distance is shrinking. It also signals to allies that Ukrainian creativity can compensate for numerical disadvantages, showing that a well-connected drone network can achieve results once reserved for expensive cruise missiles. If the dam attack near Belgorod signals future tactics, expect more operations aimed at damaging Russian infrastructure to disrupt their plans as winter approaches. At the same time, pressure on bomber bases will complicate Russia's ability to launch deep strikes against Ukrainian cities, especially if fuel supplies and maintenance facilities face repeated accidents. Electronic warfare can adapt. Inexpensive interceptors and layered jamming may neutralize attack waves that worked before. Weather conditions also play a role. While strikes into Russia have a psychological impact, Ukraine still needs artillery shells, air defense systems, and more manpower for the front lines. The drone conflict amplifies issues rather than solving them outright. Strategy doesn't always focus on destroying forces. Sometimes it's about shaping political will. When people in Moscow begin to plan their evenings based on the chance of alerts, when airport closures become commonplace, and when managers at oil depots find themselves working extra night shifts, the real costs of war become clear. More nights with an unsettled sky over Moscow seem likely. Expect more empty tanker fires mysteriously igniting near key areas. Anticipate Russia moving electronic warfare units and defense systems strategically around the capital and increasing patrols in high-risk zones. Also expect Ukraine to mix its attack patterns, blending slow long-range drones with faster models, incorporating decoys, and probing radar weaknesses from unexpected angles. Keep watching the hydrology map. If strikes on dams and canals become frequent, local Russian forces relying on seasonal water levels will face sudden changes as routes open and close overnight. Additionally, keep an eye on airbases linked with long-range bombers. Even nights with near misses matter. Ground crews become more anxious, sortie schedules slip, and Russia's deep strike plans fray. A stray drone or interceptor can cause civilian casualties, leading to propaganda around those events. That's why Ukraine focuses heavily on military and infrastructure targets and why independent verification remains crucial. However, the essential truth of the events between October 26th and 27th doesn't require an official announcement. Moscow felt the war. If you prefer clear, sourced breakdowns instead of slogans, subscribe and stay with us.